All right, here we go. Episode 13. We are here with the one, the only Will Manny. Will, welcome to the Trilogy Lacrosse Theater. How are we doing?
I'm doing good, Mitch. Thanks for having me. And RB, good to see you.
I like that your branding is represented properly. You really, between the sweatshirt, the artwork behind you, above the bed, I can't exactly see that montage or that collage of photos.
Take a sip of water, Will. Take a quick sip of water to wet your palate.
I'm finally at my I cleaned my room this week, and now I have a desk. So I've been sitting up here and organized my room, and I finally hung some pictures. So I got my Archers picture, my UMass from a picture from my freshman year. So feel at home now. I haven't had my desk sighting in a while. It's just been shit all over it. So I've kind of cleaned it up, and now I feel at home.
Do you have a mountain view? Do you get can you see out where you're in Salt Lake City?
I'm in Salt Lake. Yeah, you could probably. So can you see it out there?
Oh, yeah, that's gorgeous.
Yeah, it's a beauty of a day outside today.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, that's, I guess.
What was the transition like to Salt Lake coming from? I mean, because it's culturally it's a bit of, it's a shocker if you're not used to it, and that's just coming from visiting it. But you lived there. Like, was the first month kind of like, wait, how does this all work? Like, it's because it's definitely there's some social norms that are different, right? I mean,
absolutely. It's just one even start. It's like the people out here are so nice. That was easy kind of transitioning. How slow everything is compared to New York and Boston where I lived. It's like I'm waiting in line at a drive-through for like Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts, and it takes like 15 minutes when there's 3 cars in front of me. When you're in New York and everything, it's just in and out. But more outdoorsy. It's just when you're bored, there's people just go do hikes that take 15 to 20 minutes or a couple hours. And but yeah, there's the social scene's definitely a lot different. For myself and Marcus, when we first moved out here, I remember we went out just for dinner and a drink or two, and just the laws and a couple of things, like even regarding ordering and having a beverage on your table and ordering another one, you have to finish that one first and to get another. So that stuff, it might seem like it's a lot to get used to, but it is what it is. I'm over that, like that part of my life, I guess you'd say. I'm getting a little towards the just more relaxation side of my career instead of going out and enjoying myself all the time. So it was easier than I expected, but there are definitely a bunch of things that we had to get used to for sure.
Yeah. Do you feel like that's like Will Manny fits right at home in Salt Lake City, or are there still moments where you're like, I don't know if this is if I'm the right fit here?
It's pretty unique where I love it out here. My parents love it out here. But when people ask me like, what's one thing you miss? It's like, I do think of like the beach. When my parents live 10, 15 minutes away from the beach, and you don't have that here. You have a couple of reservoirs and a lake. But for the most part, I think there's more pros than cons living out here for sure. I think it's a cool lifestyle, and you got California an hour and a half flight away and all that stuff too. So it's a little different, but I've really enjoyed it the past 4 years.
All right, well, we're gonna pivot to another place that is certainly for a Long Island guy, not like traditional home, Amherst, Massachusetts. So we'll get right into the first video here.
Cool.
Looking at a young, strapping Will Manny.
Oh man,
coming. You guys getting this?
Is this my big hair? Oh man.
So first and foremost, sophomore. So what's this? 2011.
2000. So that's fall 2010.
2010. Let's get some volume here.
I decided to come to UMass when I had the opportunity from Coach Canella. I've been talking to him, and he said that there was a spot for me, and it all worked out. It was just one of the best decisions I've ever had, because I've had a blast and there's nowhere else.
So you probably you might go into this a little bit, but how did you go from St. Anthony's to UMass?
I was to make the story shorter. I was never really recruited by any of the top 10 schools at the time. The ACC schools and whatnot. And when it came down to that, when I realized I wasn't going to get looked at by those schools, I kind of wanted to get a full experience in playing for 4 years, and Coach Cannella was the most sincere and honest and on point guy that recruited me. You know, the style of play that I had, and certain plays from a recruiting tournament that he remembered and picked out that really struck my mind that he remembered. And when I was going to be a freshman there, I looked into their depth chart and noticed that Jimmy Connolly and Tim Belize were going to be graduating. So 2 of the 3 starting attack positions were going to be open. And for me, it was more of just, I wanted to play for 4 years, and UMass was the highest caliber program with great tradition, and that opportunity that I wanted, that was presented to me. So I jumped on it, and it ended up being, again, just a great 4 years of my career, and sparked my love for lacrosse. Honestly, I don't think, not that if I went somewhere else, I would be where I am, but I think when I realized I could play at a high level at that school, and Coach Cannella's mentorship and coaching got me to where I am today.
You mentioned the tradition and coming from a Long Island, like how much were you kind of aware of it, like cursory kind of feeling, and then what was it like in reality? Because you hear guys talk about it, and it is such a strong program with such depth and kind of legends, but unless you really know about it, I feel like it's maybe not as well known as maybe some of the other quote unquote traditional powers like a Cuse or a Hop or whatnot. Yeah.
And it actually worked out well for me. You know, when I was a freshman in high school, was that 06 run for them when they went to the championship. So that was right. They kind of hop on the scene, and I had a 5-year run with my family where we'd go to the Final Four. So we were at that one when UMass was there, and you see that kind of dark horse get to that arena, and it's pretty darn cool, you know, and the fan base that they had, you could see that. And then, you know, Coach Cannella is a Long Island guy, so he recruited a lot of Long Island guys. Like Doc Schneider at the time was from my hometown in Massapequa, and I knew of him obviously. And Anthony Biscardi, one of my mentors from Wantagh, New York, he had me as his host, or I was with him on my visit. And when you get there and you know that they're blue collar and they're tough, and they have under recruited guys. And then you see the way that they practice. I remember that was a big check mark for me when I went to go watch a practice, how fast paced and how just the tempo and style of play that they played. It was like, this fits me perfectly. So it really kind of came full circle when I got to see it in person.
Rewind just a second, Mitch, because we need to talk about the style here. Because
the uniform was the first thing I was going for. I mean, this is like straight 90s basketball uniforms here.
Well, yeah. Go back so we can see this profile shot, because he's got a lot of check marks on everything from the tilt. So pause it right here. So look at the tilt to the tape job on the stick. You'll notice that little leg band underneath his kneecap he's got going on, which is like quintessential kind of I'm the man. I'm gonna have a little piece of flair.
Is that you got the mouth guard strapped onto the chin strap too, so you can do some prime chewing, right? That's a good chewer.
I'm not a chewer. That's
but
just,
you go half in, half out.
Yeah, just the kind of hanger kind of thing, you know.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Those jerseys were like 10 years old. You know, when I was a freshman there, we had Harrow. You know, talk about underappreciated and blue collar. We had Harrow equipment. This is 2012. My junior year was the first time we had Warrior, and look what we did. We went 15-0.
Those shorts are like well past the kneecap. I mean, I don't know if that was a chosen pair or if that was small in those kind of that era.
I thought RB was just going to be talking about how I actually used to dodge.
We'll get to that.
We start with the fashion. Well, I saw your tweet. You've been watching Queer Eye recently, so you know you got to go. He's the Karamo of the conversation.
He definitely is. Have you seen the show, Mitch?
Yeah, plenty. I'm married. Of course, I've seen it.
I think it's great, man. It's hilarious.
Well, let's keep going. Have you seen when they go to Japan?
So no, I'm currently in the middle of whatever season. I'm like 3 episodes in on one of the other seasons, but I have seen that. I'm going to tune into that next.
Get ready to live.
So who are some of the studs on your UMass so you got when you went that 15-0 year? I was trying to think back. What ended up happening in the playoffs? Did you guys get snubbed or did you lose in the conference championship? I remember there was something that was weird, right?
Yeah. So we were 15-0. We won the CAA championship, our conference, and we're the number one team in the country. Coaches poll and media poll, right? Just regular season and conference play. And then obviously when it gets to the tournament, it all kind of shakes up there. We were the number one team going into the tournament and selection Sunday. And we ended up being a 6 seed with a home game versus Colgate. And it was just one of those games, it's a tournament game. Everyone's 0-0. And they were a good team that year with Peter Baum and Walsh and a couple other guys, and we went up early, and then just they had 2 or 3 goal leads in that game. We just couldn't close the gap. We fouled, we couldn't score, and we turned the ball over. So to this day, I still haven't watched that game, but
don't do it.
Yeah, that's a good decision.
I'm not gonna do it.
Is this Kyle Smith here just ripping his hard as he can from 5 feet away?
Yeah, that guy.
I think every episode we've done, we've had one just great crease crank, and that's probably checking that box right there.
This was one of the St. Joe's was out to lunch this game.
Apparently it's 8-0, and we're still in the third here. So.
Wait till the next one. I'm pretty sure it's like 15-0. Never mind.
Ours conservative Towson. So talk about playing at Garber Field. I mean, that's a pretty special place. I got the opportunity to do some CAA games there, and it's a cool spot. What was that experience like for you?
Yeah, that's the one piece where you obviously learn about a little bit during the recruiting process, and you hear about when you're on your trip or visit with a couple of the guys talking about Garber, but you don't really understand until your 4 years are done. The stuff that's happened on that field and who Coach Garber was and who Eric Soprakasa was, and these guys that really kind of cemented themselves as the pillars of the program. And it's cool to see now that they redid the whole stadium. They got new turf, they put up new banners around the whole entire place, so it really is full-time UMass lacrosse. We used to share it with field hockey, and they built a new field hockey facility down near the football stadium. So the field was, back in the day there, AstroTurf kind of fit my game at the time. I just wore those like Astro grabbers, and I felt quick as hell. And just a lot of great memories on that field, and especially this 2012 season. You could see the fans. We had that many people at every home game pretty much, packing the hill. And it's just cool to see when you can put it together, how much support you get from the school and from the
what's that like? What's that like to have actual students attend a game that you're in? Like you're gonna get some longing eyes coming.
We would get one or two games a year, usually against Princeton, like in May. It would be the first time to be above 60 degrees. People are like, hey, maybe we'll go to a lacrosse game.
Which my friends were like after a game, I hung out with him, and he's like, "Do you want to play some chess?" And I was like, "No, I'm not really in the mood." And he started talking trash. He's like, "Oh, like you don't want to play chess?" I'm like, "I had a game earlier today, and I'm also slightly concussed, so I'm really not actually in the mood for chess."
Yeah, I mean, I think UMass is known to, again, you could see the hill on the other side. They have that rope up, and you could be standing 5 yards off the sideline. So a lot of chirping and a lot of just heckling. And as you guys know, just from your different 4 years of college, you had when Cuse went up to Garber and all that, throwing the oranges and having kegs and beers on the sideline, just absolute mayhem. But yeah,
who did you get after the most? What team or what player do you distinctly remember they just were on their game?
That I played against?
Yeah, the fans. What?
Drexel was the worst.
Oh, really?
We played them. This might have been my sophomore year, the year before this, at Drexel on their senior day and alumni day, and these guys had every piece of information about myself and were just ripping me apart during warmups.
I want to know which game the your guys' home fans gave it to the other team.
Harvard was always good.
Yeah.
Crosstown rival and Ivy League school, so they would
fruit, yeah.
pull out the nerd card and all that stuff. And But I remember our game versus Delaware. I think it was my senior night was a good one. But towards the end of the year when it was warmer out and we were winning games, and more people started to come out is when they started to pick it up a little bit.
Well, Will, I had to dive deep in the archive, but apparently you were rubbing elbows with media moguls early, making a name for yourself in college. I'm gonna have to see.
Don't do this.
I'm gonna need a little insight onto what happened here.
Oh God.
Whoa.
We'll let this one play. It's only 40 seconds. We'll get the rundown and then we'll dive into it.
What do you the lax bros, the ones wearing the mid socks, the electric versus the guys actually playing? Is it like two totally different worlds?
I mean, I personally never really when I was in late high school, it might have been my junior senior year, that was the term, lax bro kind of thing.
Yep.
And I mean, I guess a lot of the younger kids would wear mid socks with the Nike shoes and the light colored, neon colored shorts or shirts. But I mean, I honestly don't think I'm really into that. I mean, I always wear nice khaki shorts and like try to look good. Nothing too special to stand out.
So paint the picture. What happened here?
So this was the 2012. So that was after that season of the highlights we just watched at Gillette for the Final Four. Is the year Scott Ratliff won the championship. And I was there with just a bunch of my friends from Massachusetts and UMass, kind of just having fun. And I remember at the time, I didn't know who this guy was at the time. And apparently he's walking around the parking lot just trying to interview people. And
2012 was Barstool like, I don't remember the timeline. Was it like kind of, it was, so you knew what it was, but you weren't like, you didn't know who he was more or less?
Exactly. And I guess he was just walking around like, oh, is there any college lacrosse players here? Is there any college lacrosse players here? And I can't remember who said it, but they were like, oh, like Will Manny from UMass is right here. Like he was like an All-American and like whatever this year. And I was like, what the hell? And I was having a good time, so I wasn't really focused on what's going on. And this guy just asked me, of course, the biggest lacrosse bro question with all these kids wearing like penguins and bananas on their shorts. And
is this a cutoff? What's going on with the jersey here? Did you cut the jersey off?
That was just one of our extra jerseys so again, blue collar UMass, right? We got like back up. They messed up our order and got us basketball pennies. So they were down to my ankles and I had to cut. So that was just one that I had in the back of my car because it was 95 degrees outside.
So when this went up, was it like, did like people give you a hard time at it, or was it not even like that popular to the fact that it, like you didn't hear much about it?
There was definitely people that saw it. I don't remember, like, I don't know how many views it has on YouTube, but I think it's a lot. And I was just like, God damn it. Like, it is what it is. But like the question that he asks me is just like,
well, he's like hardcore anti-lacrosse. And I remember the beginning of Barstool. Now they're like all in with some of the PLL stuff and some of the guys they've got on staff. But at the outset, they were like anti-lacrosse from the very beginning. So this was clearly, he was trying to like, I feel like he was trying to goad you into something. And I thought, all things considered, you did a nice job.
Yeah. I wasn't going to kind of be a hardo, which I'm not, and kind of just tell him to screw off. But yeah, it was what it was. I guess that was my claim to fame at the time.
I love the two little guys who like pop in. Like, no, I'm out of here. Who is that? There's two people like that turn. He's like, no, yeah, I'm out of here.
Oh yeah. I didn't even notice that.
What was that?
I didn't even notice that. It seems like you're doing something from the show Ridiculousness when you're on the
Yeah, exactly. What's the guy's name?
Who
is
knows
that?
who this guy is?
You know?
Do you know who this purple shirted man is?
He's like, I'm out. And then here comes somebody else. It's like, oh, just seeing what's going on back here. Maryland shirt on.
No, I have no idea who that is. God.
All right. Well, then, so fast forward.
This was coming. I've never seen this video, but you clearly, when Mitch brought up, you knew this was coming.
Oh, 100%.
Is this like your worst online thing? And it's not even that bad, but I mean, is this like this is like the hidden, like?
I just think it's funny because it's when it's I'm literally wearing a tank top with khakis and sandals like a lacrosse person normally does, you know.
The Oakley's certainly kind of like the icing on the cake.
Yeah. And then it's like early stage Barstool where they're like still using like an iPhone for a camera walking around, you know. And then it's just
he's got a tank top on himself.
I know.
And he's wearing an identical outfit. That's the part that I'm like, he's trying to like rag on you. He's wearing the exact same outfit.
It's just funny. It was a long time ago.
So did you, in 2013, you graduated in 13, right?
Yeah.
And did you get hurt in 13?
I broke my hand. I was out for 5 games.
I was like, because I know you got a lot of accolades in 2012, and I was like, and then he came out and killed it for the Cannons, so something must have happened, and I couldn't remember. It's like, I don't think he did his knee, but I remember that you weren't.
Yeah, it was my first game versus Army. So we won. I think it was 8-6. We won in the second quarter. I was going for a ground ball towards the sideline, and the kid that actually got drafted with us, Alex Buckley, to the Cannons.
Yeah.
He was covering me at the time and just had my hand out exposed, and just he came down and got me right between the gap on my glove and snapped my finger in half. And I played the rest of the game, and when I took my glove off at the end, it was just so swollen you couldn't see that. It was like just dangling, and I tried to like sleep it off, and at like 1-2 in the morning I called our trainer Bob, and I was like, I need to get an x-ray in the morning. My finger's throbbing, and got the x-ray. It was sliced in half, had to get 2 pins in it for 5 weeks. And that was one of my like decisions in college where I was proposed potentially redshirting, you know, and getting those games back, but I wanted to graduate with my guys, and felt like I had a good future ahead of me with a bunch of stuff. So I kind of just let it ride out and played the rest of the year.
And then
Buckley, who was Alex Buckley? He was
different Buckley. It was not Alex Buckley. Alex Buckley's the Brown, or was there 2 Alex Buckleys?
Oh, it's Brendan Buckley. Sorry.
Brendan Buckley.
Alex Buck. I was texting Buck the other day.
Still nothing. Still cricket.
Alex Buckley's Brown played on the Riptide with me and runs Bucktown down in Carolina.
Yeah.
Brendan,
yeah, he's from Army.
So then you know you get to come join me and RB, and we had a fun crew there. So 2013 was your first summer. I think this is from 14, but actually this might have been a couple.
This is 15.
Yeah.
So tell me about that experience coming into the Cannons, going from UMass, you know, one kind of that college game, and then transition over. Because I did it, and everyone we've talked to has done it. I think everyone we've talked to has been over 35 years old. So you're by far the youngest guy on the Trilogy Lacrosse team.
We just had McMahon on.
True. All right. Yeah, but you're the first guy that kind of was like coming up when Ryan and I were getting towards this back half of our careers. So what was that like coming over to the Cannons specifically, and you know everything we did those first couple of years?
Yeah. No, that's again. I think that team and that fun of a group that we had was a big reason why I'm still playing, you know, just for the love of the game and enjoying the weekends kind of thing. And I've talked about this over the past week or so, people asking with the transition on a couple of the podcasts like we talked about earlier. And I always remember guys like RB and Bucky being great mentors to myself on what to do in these games. You know, it's a lot different than college. And when a guy like myself who, right, was under-recruited out of high school and again, played at an underappreciated college for 4 years, it was I kind of had to find my role when I got to the pros. You know, I was a quarterback. I had the ball on my stick a lot, and I go to a team with Ryan Boyle and Paul Rabel and Kevin Buchanan and all these guys that are proven players at the pro level. I needed to just figure out what to do to be consistent and play, because right, everyone knows you don't get paid unless you play in the pro level. And I remember going to the first week we could report after I graduated, and I had a really good practice the night before. I scored a bunch of goals and was flying around, and they decided to dress Dave DiMaria over me that first game, and that freaking pissed me off. And again, he like, nothing against Dave, right? I don't know if he'll ever listen to this, but
no, he's listening. DiMaria's
he's a subscriber. Yeah, he writes us every week.
He didn't really do much, and I don't know how much he played, but I remember right after the game or the day after, KB was just like, yeah, you're playing next week. And I think we were going out to Denver. And, but yeah, again, playing with you guys and a guy like you, Mitch, I remember just making practices that much more fun and kind of loosening up the joints a little bit just to enjoy yourself and play your style of play is so important. And again, I just was thankful to be playing in Boston too, right? Coming from UMass and at the time, right, Boston just had a fan base, just a sports town in general. And I just feel like for the most part, every home game we had a good crowd to play in front of and most for it.
Di Maria, we'll talk about your accolades in a second, but Di Maria, I think the Cannons drafted him just to piss me off for like 2-3 weeks because man, oh man, like he just could get under my skin and just was like
oh god, I was like having a hard time picturing Di Maria until you said that, and now I remember you screaming at Di Maria.
It's like a golden retriever, and I was just like an old salty dog. It was just like, oh god, like leave me alone. But the first game, his first dodge, he like ran up and then just like tripped over his own feet and just took a digger into the backside of the goal. I don't know if you guys remember that. But his dodge X and like tried to change direction, tripped, fell, and just went like right into the goal, in the back of the goal. And it was like, oh, that's just not going to end well. Like,
there are so many stories that I have off the top of my head that can't be told on this. That I remember him just from like 2 weeks of being in the same locker room.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember what game that was? RB, his first game?
Oh, his first game.
Cool. You scored the game winner, RB.
Oh, Chesapeake, where Ryan did the double inside roll.
Yeah, it was ridiculous.
That wasn't that game, was it?
Yes, it was. I remember being on the sideline for it.
Man, how you guys remember this stuff? Like, so this game that we're watching right now, it was like 3 quarters. I didn't realize you had 10 points in this game. We watched this with Brody because this is the game where we threw the Hail Mary. We were down. I mean, you see, it's 12-9.
I know.
But we were down by 2 points with 1.9 seconds left. But I forgot that you had 10 points in this game.
I wish this would have been a cleaner finish because what a freaking play by Pelly. Just keeping the ball going our way.
Oh yeah, this play from beginning to end. Except what happened? It hit off Brody's shaft.
Yeah. So again, it was just like full speed transition where I was like, I see Brody cutting, and it was just that half second where he's open, and then it just closes quickly, and it just went off of his stick. I don't know if it was his or not because I don't know if it counted as 1 or 2 because I was behind the line.
Well, you can see he's motioning to the ref. He's like saying,
yeah, because if it goes off of one of their guys, it's a 2.
Right.
Yeah, because so Pelly focuses forward.
Most of our 2s, either empty netters or mistakes.
Yeah.
or 109-yard bombs, any of those.
I think the thing that impressed us, though, because the old guys, like when a rookie kind of joins the league, like you kind of know pretty quickly, like whether he's got it, but then the other thing is like, is this serious to him? Is he like in this? Is this just like, oh, cool, I get like to keep playing, or like, oh, like this is what I can do. Like I can play pro lacrosse. Like I'm in, and like I think that was the thing. Like you and Rat, like so clearly were like, I want this to be a part of my life. Like I'm in on this, and like it's just funny because when you're in it long enough, like some guys that are like 4 years or 3 years, like they think they're like these veterans, and you're like, yeah, take the amount of time you've done this and then double it and then add a few, and now we're like on the same page. And they're like, holy hell.
Well,
so
I think
tell right away when a rookie or like a young guy, you're like, you can tell if somebody's into it or not.
Agreed, and that's, I mean, you have to be all about it class in this league, in both all these leagues to play professionally. But yeah, I completely agree with that, and you can see it right away and how much they make it a culture. Now, you worked at Bank of America for 3 weeks out of college.
It was just over a year.
Okay, so you did a full year, but
Same
right
length,
away you were like,
same length Mitch was at Moody's. Same length Mitch was at
yeah,
Moody's.
exactly. I realized real quick that wasn't going to be the life for me. Okay, so this is 2015. We had that 2016 season where that was the one where 2016 was where we had that crazy game and lost to New York, right?
Yes.
And then
Oh
the
my
next year you get traded to New York, the Evil Empire. That still to this day is one of those things that it's probably a head scratcher. But what was when that happened? Did you know that was potentially going to happen or?
No. I remember being at home and in the backyard, and I know it was like trade deadline time and all this other stuff going on. And over the past the previous 2 or 3 years, Kate, those guys would bounce stuff off of me of like guys that they're looking to pick up and what do I think. And as like a player coach, which I loved, and I thought that was a really cool thing and connection we had. And I get a call and I pick it up like happy and jolly, like KB, what do you got for me? And he goes, I'm going to cut right to the chase. I never thought I'd do this, but I just traded you to New York. And I'm like, what? and he didn't tell me for who, but he said it was me and Jolo and getting 2 other guys that can really help them. And then when Spalina called me not even 10 minutes after that and told me for who, I was like, do those guys even play lacrosse anymore? Like who, what? And I know Dave really well. Didn't know LaPierre at all, but I knew Dave Lawson, and I was like, did you get a call? I texted him. I was like, did you get called that we got traded for each other? And, for me, it was upsetting for 15 to 20 minutes. But then I found out I had a Lizards game in 2 nights on a Thursday night versus Ohio. So I kind of had to flip the switch there and get ready for practice the next day. But, for me, I looked at Boston as my home. I loved playing there, and I had a good fan base with just people that I knew from UMass, and my parents loved going up there. So when that happened, it was right. And being a captain of the team, right, following a guy like RB, when RB leaves, right, I got nominated as a captain, an offensive captain, and it's like, then you get traded. But at the same time, it's a business in a way, and they thought that was the best for them, and I just wanted to keep playing, and luckily enough, it was to New York, so it was 10 minutes away from my parents' house, so they can come to every other game at home and be happy with that. And I knew a bunch of the guys on that team as well, so it was an easy transition once I got into that first game versus Ohio and played and won that game. So, but yeah.
Did you win a championship with them?
No. We lost
when did they win that? They won it in the year that we lost to them in 16.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then the new era began, and you really set the tone early. I don't want to spoil the surprise, but I'm sure everyone's seen it by now. With the very first weekend, was it the first game or just the like the marquee game?
It was the first game of PLL like ever.
Yeah. So, and of course at Gillette. So talk about that experience.
Yeah, again, because we had a canon season where we did play at Gillette. So right, I have an idea what that place is about, and obviously with what the Patriots do, it's a special place in sports. And this was such a surreal day with just stepping out onto the field and having the first game ever, and being on this team with a bunch of my best friends. You talked about Scott earlier, who he'd be my number 1 pick to play with a guy at all times. And then living with Marcus and Adam, and I can go down the whole list. And then Drew Adams. For us, it's really special to be all on the same team now. And this game, it was ups and downs and game of runs. And when it came down to it, I just remember the last play. I'll always remember it because, it's a special moment for not only my career and myself personally, but just the PLL in general, just scoring that game winner. And I just remember clearly just hearing BJ Grill just announcing himself as the hot guy when Dan Ike was like 35 yards away from the goal. And I was like, wow, this is coming right to me. And
let's get right to it then. If you're gonna give us, let's get.
Yeah, it was,
Yeah, a little audio on this baby too. Is this one of those?
Wait, why would we want the audio? Who would possibly be talking that we want it? I think it's actually there's no. Oh, here's the.
Oh yes.
and that I was blacked out at that point. I did not have that planned. I did not have that planned at all.
Really?
No.
Because you get style points for the hands, the
Yeah.
wrist flip and everything.
I that was not planned. That's not who I am.
God, I just got
What?
goosebumps.
What? Yeah, I got goosebumps watching this the first time I ran it back earlier this morning. What?
You still got goosebumps watching this? No?
Who, me or are you talking to Mitch or me?
Just
Well,
goosebumps everywhere. Everyone's goosebumping.
100%. I get goosebumps thinking
I'm
about
just
it.
right now watching you.
Yeah, it's
R.L.
awesome.
Steinen. What? How did you and Marcus decide who get to wear number 1?
I mean, it was relatively easy because I switched to number 4 when I got traded to New York because Walters.
Yeah.
And I rocked 4 for 2 seasons, and so that was relatively easy. I'm sticking with 4 now. I'm good.
And did you wear 4 in high school or anything, or were you always 1 growing
No,
up?
I was always 1. I just switched to 4 because I like the single digit kind of thing. And when I got to New York, it was like 1 was Walters, 3 was Pinnell, and I just like that lower tiered number. And 4 was open. With Casio was 5, so we just had a good crew with that low digit number, and yeah, just stuck with it.
What exceeded, like, this is day 1 PLL. I mean, I remember from our perspective, it's like we have no idea what's going to happen in terms of, like, are these teams, like, adequately matched up? Are they close? Like, so, like, from a broadcasting perspective, we, like, lucked out. I mean, this was, like, the very first game.
Yeah.
But I'm curious more from your perspective as a player, like, the experience of day 1 must, as you said, must have been so surreal. What, like, exceeded your expectations? And then what's, like, that funny moment where you're like, you know, like there's like a mouse that walks across the floor. You're like, oh, what the hell is that? Like what is, like, still, like stars are just like us. Like, you spilled mustard on your shirt that day or something like that.
Yeah, it was the fact that you look at these teams, right, and you go from the other pro league where there's more teams and more guys playing and more balanced of kind of talent.
Yeah.
And then you put them into 6 teams total. It's like you look at that attack on the Chrome, you know, it was like Gutterding, Wolf, and Thompson. And it's like, holy shit, like that's like an all-star attack line, you know. And then you look at ours, and it's me, Marcus, and Kevin Rice, who came off a great summer in the previous league, you know. So it's like when you looked at the rosters, it was like, this is going to be tough. You know, this game is going to be physical because the field's smaller. It's going to be fast and high scoring. And, you know, after the biggest thing for me after like week 3 or 4 moving to the rest of the year, and I've said this before, it's like I went into every game like it's going to be a 1-goal game.
Yeah.
You know, in the past, you can kind of be like, all right, I can have an idea what the score is going to be. Like, maybe there's going to be tight. We could blow this team out if we play well. Like, I didn't go into that one time.
Yeah.
And I think that helped me personally play loose and also just be a little bit more mature about it and be like, you could be down 5 goals and you could be back in it in 2 minutes with these rules and how fast the shot clock is. So that was more of like the eye-opening / just things that caught my attention throughout the year. And then I think just the mustard on the shirt or mouse on the floor kind of thing was just how much media and how well it was presented, you know, with you and Brendan in the booth. You know, that's just so.
With the mustard on the shirt? What the hell? Mitch, I don't think I'm doing a good job explaining this.
No.
Your analogies are always
I get what you're saying, but I'm talking about just just different for us and kind of a surprise where we didn't have that in the pro levels, where putting commentating on highlights, you know, that is a whole new level of growth for the game of lacrosse. And then just the media where you could score a goal and then they have a camera in your face on the field before the face-off. Like the face-off happens and there's still 4 guys holding a 300-pound camera running off the field. That they announced to us, you're going to have to just deal with it, because that's what we're going to do. And there's going to be a couple of changes and places you're going to be uncomfortable, and questions we might ask you during live interviews with you, after a goal. So that stuff was just a little bit of a twist, but very easy to accommodate once you commit to it.
And obviously, looking at this upcoming season, there's some challenges depending on when things start. How have you been staying ready, staying in shape, mentally and physically preparing in this climate?
Yeah. One thing that I really took to heart when this all went down, I'd lose our Utah season, which again, I felt for our players, which was terrible. It gets canceled, and then within 3 or 4 days, all of them are home. So that kind of, you don't even get to talk to them in person and kind of break it down. But me personally, when it happened, I just, being surrounded by guys like Marcus and Brian Holman and Adam, all positive and just influential people. And I just told myself, I'm just going to be as positive as I can. If you're negative during this time, it's just going to make it worse. And for me, there's a lot of people that are doing a lot worse than I am right now in so many ways. And whether people are overseas or they're losing their job and losing their home, like I just kind of put that into perspective every morning, and I kind of just try to do it with a smile on my face. And just still working out. Utah's strength and conditioning coaches, they actually opened up the weight room 2 weeks ago now for one morning for 2 hours, where you can go in and grab any of the equipment that you wanted and sign it out so you could bring it home. So I have some bands and dumbbells and kettlebells and kettlebells downstairs, and just try to make the most of it. And we have a couple parks right nearby that have nets that I have the codes to, so can get out to the field luckily and kind of let it rip a little bit, get some touches, and clear the mind. And because we're not allowed to use our stuff at school right now. They even shut down our fields, our practice field. So just trying to just be positive and find a way to get better, whether that's watching film, watching games from last year and taking some notes, watching college games to help me as a college coach. There's just so much access to stuff now, right? I said that the other day on an interview. It's like, I wish I had the access that I do now when I was younger, just how much better I could have potentially been, and how much more I would have loved the game earlier. And just trying to influence the younger generation and kids to be positive during this time. That's pretty much where I'm at.
Awesome. Well, we always wrap up with some kind of quick hitter questions. I think we kind of covered some of these, but I'm curious to hear if the answers change when you get put on the spot here. But number one, favorite place to play?
Like in general?
Yeah. All time.
Oh God. I'm gonna say I'm gonna go with Gillette.
Wow. Over Garber.
I was thinking more pro.
Don't worry, this is gonna blow up on the UMass chat room.
Yeah.
Will he hates Garber over Garber?
Garber.
There it is. All right. How about
favorite coaching staff? Gittleman, Holman, Resch, Bates, or Brian Farrell, head coach of the Trilogy Ice team?
Oh my God. My favorite coaching staff?
Yeah. Do you remember when you coached with Farrell?
Yes, of course I do.
We used to watch you guys warm up, and like the kids would just be running around like mauling each other, and like you two would just be like Farrell with his goofy ass walk where like you think he's gonna fall over, and like you guys would just be playing catch and like lighting up your starting goalie. And Mitch and I would just look at each other and be like, their kids don't care at all. They're so freewheel. Like we're like nervous wrecks, and like the kids are like just take after your personality. Like you two were the biggest.
It worked. Yeah, it worked.
Absolute mess. I'm gonna go with. This is a little odd because I don't really think of coaching staffs, but I'm gonna go with Scott Ratliff and Liam Banks.
Oh,
wow.
for their LB3 teams.
Okay.
So that's a power team right there.
Interesting.
Yeah.
How about most embarrassing moment on a lacrosse field?
Most embarrassing moment. And this will make Mitch happy. When I got traded to New York, they were one of the first game I had back in Boston was at that high school or whatever, wherever you guys were playing that, or Endicott. And everyone was like hyping this game up, like, oh, well, man, he's coming back to Boston. Like, he's going to be like, and then Mitch covered me and just blanked me. So I think the first possession of the game, I started squaring Mitch up to dodge, and I sweep on him, and he just tees off and just is crushing my arms. And I take a gumball shot from like 20 yards out, and it goes right into the goalie stick. And Mitch said something, and it kind of just got in my head the whole entire game. And he was doing it as like a friendly reminder, like just busted my chops, and I just played miserable after that.
What did you say?
What?
Crawled right in there. I don't know. It must.
I was at Endicott. I remember.
I'm not a big trash talker, so it must have been just something like just right to the core, right?
It got me good. I was upset.
I'm sorry. Glad we're over it, both of us.
I don't really think of any sort of embarrassing moment, though. I mean,
Mitch, what's your most embarrassing moment?
Oh, man. I mean, looking back, probably like I'm most embarrassed about when I jumped after I hit Jarrett Park, because it's like has the potential to be the coolest moment, and then I had to do that little jump step. Like, I wish I had just gone for the ball or just kept going. That's probably my biggest regret. But I don't know. Most embarrassing.
I think that's a humble brag.
Yeah,
that's a humble brag.
My biggest attribute is I care too much. All right. How about favorite teammate of all time?
Wow.
You said Rat earlier, is it not?
Yeah, Rat's. I mean, Rat's. That's
he could play with on a team, which you could argue his best teammate, but I think I envision that more like he's offense, Rat's defense. I was curious, circling back to this, if that would change.
Yeah. I mean, there's one guy that I don't really talk about much, and he really had an impact on my career, and I thought he was a great teammate, was Steven Berger. A guy that wasn't underrated, but he just got shit done, in a cool way, and really cared. And like RB said earlier, a guy that really cared about playing the game and being on a winning team. And I remember me and him just had a cool connection. He would, when I was still younger in the league and he got brought to the Cannons, he wanted to learn about me. He wanted to know who I was. And he really talked to me after plays and during quarters, just, hey, when I do this, just be ready. Like I'll throw it to you. And that's kind of a connection that I had with him. So I'm going to go with Bergs, and he brings that cool, just kind of energy to a team that not many people really know about unless you played with them.
Yeah, that's true. Fearless, right?
Yeah.
Fearless, get right. And a guy, you hate him if he's on the other.
Hate his guts when he's not on your team.
Hate it.
And those are usually the best teammates, the ones that you hate the most when you play against them. You're like, oh, that guy's actually an awesome guy when he's on your team.
God, hated him. But then nicest guy off the field, nicest guy who's on your team.
Yeah.
How about, besides Brendan Buckley trying to sever your hand, who's your nemesis? If you had to pick one lacrosse nemesis, who is it?
Besides Mitch?
I didn't realize this was my role.
I'd go with Joe Fletcher. Fletch I actually got asked this question. I think it was like a PLL survey or something like that. And it's just different for me because like I just don't dodge a lot anymore. So it's just hard for me to really kind of talk about that. But Fletch is a guy that whenever he covers me, it's always the hardest to find a way to score, because he knows I'm good off ball. And when I dodge, he's just really, really good at covering. And that kind of just triggered, honestly, the most embarrassing moment of my career there's a PLL game, there's a ball going to the corner, and I like knew Fletch was going to like hockey it because that's his style, but I tried to like shift in front of him. He like juked me out. I went in front of him and like fell, and then he hockeyed it through my legs.
I remember that play. That's pretty good.
That's pretty good.
It made it all over the PLL highlights, and I was like, there it is.
That was pretty good. I think Fletcher got more celebrated than you got. Like,
yes.
I think the clip, I can recall the play exactly. I think it was like, good on you, Fletch, kind of thing. Not like,
Will Manny.
Yeah. No, 100%. Which, thank God he picked it up clean and was like, it just got up and out and the camera moved. But yeah, he got me good on that.
Pounding the grass, man.
Because you like just knowing that too. Like, I remember people Rat might have even said it before the game because Fletch had just got brought on, and it was his first or second game. He's like, hey, attack anytime there's a GB on the ground, like just take body because he's gonna try to hockey it, he just hockeyed it and then juked me out at the same time.
Yeah, you kind of try to take body and he kind of belayed you. Like,
I mean, Fletch is not like the biggest dude, right? So like I kind of just tried to go shoulder to shoulder and see like what would happen and then go after it. But like I like just totally went the wrong direction of the ball and then he just olayed me.
I gotta see if I can find this.
Mitch, while you're finding it, obviously, you know why this is like such a savvy like nemesis pick, and this is really kind of like, Will kind of showed his strategic lens earlier, like looking at UMass and was graduating. He picked the defenseman that is retiring. So he's not going to give he's not pumping anybody up that's still in the league. He's not like giving any tip of the cap that somebody might see. He's not like giving any sort of edge. It's like, no, I'm going to pick the guy that just retired.
Yeah, Fletch he's out of it. I think that was the last highlight on his retirement video.
Oh, I'm having a hard time pulling it up in time, so you might get off easy on this one. We'll end with what is your, if you had to just pick one all-time top lacrosse memory, what's going A1 spot?
I'm going with just being a finalist for the Tuarton Award in 2012. Obviously this past summer with what happened and all that's all cool, but I just think for my family and just my athletic career, kind of that 2012 year just sparked my love for lacrosse, and recognizing that I can and want to play at a really high level and play professionally, like RB said earlier. And then just being an All-American that year and then being in that top 5 for that prestigious award and going through and being treated like a Heisman finalist, when you go to all that stuff, was just so cool. And I never imagined that happening. Just lucky to have that team that we had that year, that we were so good and won a lot of games. And we ended up getting 5 or 6 All-Americans that year because we won 15 games, and finally got that credit that guys worked for. But I'd have to go with just that weekend, being there with my family, and Coach Cannella was there. Because again, you don't get many shots at that. So I think that's probably my number one.
Awesome. Well, I lied. One more question. Number one song to listen to while driving to the Hamptons.
Oh my God. You're putting me on the spot right now.
There's only one right answer. That's only one right answer. How about While in the Car with Adam Gilman and Mitch Belisle?
What is the name of that song?
Who sings it?
Oh my God, I'm blanking.
Taylor Swift. Bad
Blood. It's Bad Blood. Yes. That was. And what was the name of the game that we played? The card game?
The Mad Gabs.
Mad Gabs.
Great game.
I feel like RB would like that one.
Is this in Book of Games?
Muhammad Dali. Mad Gabs. Look it up. This is product placement here when we get the big sponsorship from Hasbro. Yeah, Mad Gabs. All right, well, Will, we really appreciate you taking time out. I know, your media schedule is off the charts right now. Glad we could get you on and look forward to watching you this summer and seeing your Utes hopefully compete in 2021. But thanks again for coming on. And it's, you're one of those guys that always brought positivity on the field and in the locker room. And so to Ryan's point, like we knew right away that you were going to be one of the great ones, and it's awesome to have been able to watch that and be part of that.
Yeah, and thank you guys again, right, Mitch, for what you're doing in the game of lacrosse, right, continuing to do the broadcasting stuff and hopping in with the NLL and affecting my career, and in RB, you know, pretty cool to hop in as a rookie and get to play with a guy like yourself and make my job a lot easier and get the connection we had. I thought that was really cool, and a lot of people don't really know about me that I got to play with a guy like you and Paul on the offensive end earlier in my career, and it's a fun story to tell recently, talking old lacrosse memories with a lot of people, and what you're doing with the PLL now. It's great, and so happy to have you a part of it. Hopefully we can get Mitch on the sideline or something, doing something down there. But
I just come to games with my kids.
yeah,
I'm a fan now.
You could just be a dad. I remember seeing you at the New York games. But yeah, thank you guys so much. This is awesome, and hopefully you guys stay healthy and get through this with positivity.
Thanks, Will.
Yep.